Hello, welcome to another video, and it's another fun one in my opinion as a teacher, whatever that means. Basically there was a school trip last week, so a lot of kids were out. So the ones that stayed, I said let's have a bit of fun, let's do a pub quiz, and I threw together a little quiz with some different fun rounds, general knowledge, that kind of thing. And then I thought, well, let's put this on YouTube as well, and let's combine it with an old use of English that I made a year or so ago, so that it's fun and educational and you can learn a lot. Okay, so there's going to be 10 rounds effectively. 6 rounds are the fun, random, general knowledge sort of rounds with different activities, which are 10 points each. And then thrown into the middle is a complete use of English, which I'd probably put around B2-C1 level. There's a bit of a mix of questions, like part 1 maybe a bit more B2, but anyway. What you should do then is get a piece of paper, try and answer all of these and get your score out of 90, because there's going to be 60 points here and 30 points here. And ideally do it in groups, do it in teams, use this in a class, especially if you're a teacher. This is a very fun and useful class you can do as a sort of revision class for use of English, but making it fun. Kids are in teams, they write their answers on a piece of paper, then you pass them around at the end and mark each other's and see who wins, and it's a fun hour or so, hour if you go quickly. Or if you're studying by yourself, then great, just watch it, write down, get your score out of 90 at the end. Right, let's get into this then. We are starting with name the country. So this round you simply need to name the country based on, firstly, the outline of this wonderful high resolution JPEG that I did not copy and paste from a thumbnail. So that's round 1, number 1, write the country with this distinctive little part here. Number 2, this is so easy that I'm just going to skip ahead. Number 3, for me it's not that difficult because I play, GeoGuessr and all these games and Wordle and all these things. Number 4, that's a very distinctive country shape, this pointy, sharp bit with lots of ocean here. And number 5, another very famous country. There are 10 questions, remember, but we're going to change now because question number 6 is a flag. What country is that? And what country is that for number 7? These are easy. And number 8, maybe more difficult, but we categorize our world into countries, so we should know which symbols each country has. Number 9, that one for me is a bit easier. Isn't that blue and white thing nice? I barely noticed that before, but it's the same depth, width. And number 10, some country with an eagle and some mountains. Interesting. So that's the end of round 1. Draw a line under it and move on to round 2. And round 2, we've always got to have a music round. But as I said, I just threw this together quickly, so it's not quite as complicated as other music rounds I've done. Basically what I've done is I've got the 5 most streamed songs of all time on Spotify. You're going to get 1 point for naming the artist and 1 point for naming the song. So I'm going to play it. All you need to do is write artist, song for these 5 things. This should work, shouldn't it? Let's see. So that was number 1. I did forget to say they are backwards. Sorry, yes, the songs are backwards. I reversed the songs to make it slightly more challenging. So that was number 1, write the artist and the song. Number 2. Number 3. Artist and song. Number 4. That one I didn't actually know, but I'm an old man. And number 5. And there we go, that's the end of the second round. Moving on to round 3, which is Use of English Part 1. And as I said, a year or so ago I made this lesson. It's about this woman called Queen Elizabeth II, who was some kind of emperor of England or some kind of demigod or something that everyone thought was very important. And she died, which is always very sad when people die. And this was in the news, so I said, okay, that's interesting, let's make a lesson about this. So you've got a Use of English Part 1, which means you need to complete the blanks using the best word from these 6 options. 6 questions. I would recommend pausing the video for 3 or 4 minutes because you're supposed to be doing these fast in the exam. Concentrating, choosing the best answer for numbers 1 to 6. Pause the video now. And we are moving on to the next part because you have paused the video and you've answered all these questions. So we're moving on to round 4. Round 4 is Guess the Year. I'm going to show you a famous photo from history. You need to say what year it is. When I did this in class, I said you have to get the exact year because they are very famous events. The kids didn't do very well. Kids nowadays don't learn history. But anyway, that's what I said. Maybe you can play it where if you are within 3 years, you get a point or something like that. Here we go then. There's your first famous event. Bobby Moore, of course, there. 3 lines on the shirt. Here's your second photo. What is that? And when is that? More importantly, just write the year. All you need to do is write the year. Number 3, that's a very easy one. Write the year of this photo. Number 4, oh, I live in Spain, so this should have been a bit easier. If you don't speak Spanish, well, even if you don't, come on, you can figure out what this means, can't you? Muerto Franco. Luto means mourning, grieving. Number 5, crazy photo. And number 6, write the year. This one is actually a bit difficult, but we were studying this in class, so I thought the kids might have got it. They didn't. I mean, we were reading about it because we watched Hidden Figures, you remember, from one of my previous videos. Number 7, just write the year. Little clues there, obviously. Something I just about remember, which tells you my age. Number 8, I don't remember this, although it was the year I was born, which definitely tells you my age and maybe can help you figure out what year it was. And number 9, is where you need to think, why are they doing that? It must be and that tells you the year. And number 10, this one's a little bit of a funny one in my opinion. If you remember what was happening with this photo, there's some little clues there. If you look at the people in the photo and the background, and maybe there's a little clue here. And there we go, that's the end of round 4, if I'm counting correctly. We're moving on to round 5, which is Use of English Part 2, which is a continuation of the text about this woman who was the king. Or no, when it's a woman who's the king, we call her the queen, don't we? Like Yas Queen. I guess that's why they call her queen, because it's like Yas Queen, is everyone loves and respects her. It's Use of English Part 2. Complete the blanks with a little grammatical word, as I always say. Pause the video, again 3 or 4 minutes, because you need to train yourself to be able to do this fairly quickly, because you don't get so much time in the exam. I'll shut up. You've already paused the video, you've already answered them. And we're going to move on to the next round after you've written your 6 words for your answers here, because the next round, moving on, yes, ready? Next round is logos. Now the kids, they don't know history or music or geography, but they know logos. What does that tell you about our society, eh? I'm going to show you 10 logos. You just need to write the company, the brand that these little images represent. There we go, there's your 10 logos. All global brands, I guess. pause the video for a couple of minutes. Always feel very dirty, guilty teaching children this, but our world is full of images and symbols that mean things to us, and it's fun to recognize them, isn't it? I know that one, I've seen that before, and so on. So you pause the video. If you've had enough time to do it, great. You've written 1 to 10, you've written a brand. We're moving on to the next round, which is something more educational and more productive and meaningful. It is Use of English Part 3, again about Queen, the Queen and her life, and it's Part 3, which means take the word that I give you for number 1, institute, and change it so that it fits the gap number 1. And the same for number 2, take the word and put it in the gap number 2. Pause the video for 3 or 4 minutes. And then at the end, we will go through the answers and I will explain them. But now we are moving on to the next round because you pause the video, you've read it in detail, you've thought about how to transform the words so they make sense. You've watched all my Use of English videos, so you're very good at this, and this is just more practice. We're moving on to the workout round. Okay, this might be difficult to explain, but basically because I did this with different teams, and we said, okay, the first round, you need to send a team member for the wall sit, as in sit against the wall with your back against the wall and your legs parallel to the floor. Yeah, you've seen a wall sit. And whoever lasts the longest, your team gets 5 points, and second gets 3 points, and third gets 1 point, and that's how we did it. And I did it with them, and I lost. I suffered an embarrassing defeat. I lasted for 90 seconds, and then I couldn't walk, and I was dying, and I was, couldn't breathe and couldn't see, because 90 seconds, I can't do this. And despite being quite healthy and doing exercise. And the kids were very worried, saying, oh my God, what's happening to our teacher? And the kids lasted for 7 minutes. And I said, 5 points, well deserved. So you can do this in teams, see who lasts the longest, get some points. Then the same for push-ups, and send up a different team member to see who can do the most push-ups. And then send up a different team member for tree pose. If you don't know what that is, search for it on Google. It's a yoga pose. The point is, it's quite difficult to do it for more than a minute or two. So a bit of a different round, bit of physical activity, always good in the classroom. So you've done your workouts. If you're just watching this video by yourself, do a little workout. See if you can last for 90 seconds like I did. See if you can do 50 push-ups like I did. Good luck. And see if you can do tree pose for 2 minutes like I did and the winner did. And we'll move on to Use of English Part 4. Ooh, no, this is going to take a little bit longer. Maybe pause the video for 5 or 6 minutes. They're sort of a cross between B2 and C1 again, so they're all going to have 3 words minimum and 5 words maximum. And we know the rules. You must use the word as it is given, don't change it, and keep the meaning of the sentence as close as possible to the original sentence. And these are, again, typical Part 4 structures that I'm testing you on. Pause the video, write your answers. There's 12 points here, so this is the most important round. So keep up the concentration and try and get them all right. Then we're going to move on and at the end look at the answers, explain them. But you've done all of these, you've paused the video, you've written round, I don't even know where we are, I guess we're on round 9, and you've written the answers. And the last round is some riddles, which are normally quite fun. Will I read them? Let's read them. 2 things that you cannot eat for dinner, number 1. What is in the middle of nowhere, number 2. Forwards I am heavy, backwards I am not. What am I? All of the answers are just a very short, very, very short. You are not writing a novel about, well, potentially, no. Just a very short 1-word answer pretty much, or maybe 2 for the first question. Is an old €100 note better than a new one? What has to be broken before you can use it? Poor people have it, rich people need it. If you eat it, you die. What is it? What occurs once in a minute, twice in a moment, and never in 1,000 years? What has a face and 2 hands, but no arms or legs? And it is not a penguin, like one of my students said. What instrument can you hear but never see? And what 5-letter word becomes shorter when you add 2 letters to it? Pause the video for another 2 or 3 minutes if you want to think about them. Obviously, they are riddles, which means you need lateral thinking. Don't just think of the obvious answer, but look at the question and try to interpret the question in different ways. Use some unconventional thinking. And then when you've done that and you've paused the video and you've got all your best answers for this, it is time to look at the answers. We have 10 rounds and a total of 90 marks. If you're doing this in teams, swap your papers with another team and treat others like you would like to be treated yourself. Those were the countries. So give yourself a mark out of 10 for the countries. And that was the music. So give yourself a mark out of 10 for the music. 1 point for the artist, 1 point for the song. And if you've got the person it was featuring, hey, let's be generous. We're all in this together, so be generous and mark it correctly, even if maybe they said someone to love or something. That's close enough, isn't it? We more or less know what you mean. So mark out of 10, maybe circle it so it's clear so you can count it at the end more easily. And we move on to the serious stuff. Use of English part 1. Okay, so number 1, she had a long reign because it's the duration of something, it's the length, so we say long. Number 2, she was the head of state of 15 other countries. They are, UK and other countries. And these countries went from Fiji to the Bahamas. They stretched from. Stretching from means extending from here to here. That was maybe the most difficult one. Number 4, well, I sort of just gave it away. She was head of state, and you are head of an organisation, the Commonwealth, which is all the countries that used to be in the empire. And number 5, she was the governor, the supreme governor, which sounds vaguely like Robocop or something. And this was a role that she took seriously. It's something she did, it's her role. When in her private and public lives. Private and public, these words go together, don't they? So mark out of 6 for that use of English part 1. And let's go on to the years. These are the correct years with a short explanation of what was happening. Most of them are pretty obvious. Maybe the only thing missing is the point of the last photo was that they were maybe not Brazilian, English and Argentinian people. They were people who were hired, supposedly, to pretend to be fans at the Qatar World Cup, which was a humorous event. So mark out of 10 for the years, and let's move on to use of English part 2. And you should have a period, which or that, because we are treating this like a thing. This is a period which. It could be a time, but then it would be a period, well, I guess a period when a period when things happened, but it's a period that saw, because it's like a thing that saw something. There are changes in, advances in, progress, increases in, is the same idea. She was the symbol of an age, or I guess Queen Elizabeth, the point is she was not the symbol of an age like Queen Victoria was. She had a right to be consulted. Obviously, she was born with a right to be consulted more than other people. And number 5, where are these concerts? They are at the palace. If we're talking like a party, a concert, we say at. And number 6, probably the only difficult one, she accepted the changes, as in making it a bit more democratic and equal and fair. She accepted them rather than initiating them. She didn't want to do it. We had to fight for it against the tyranny and so on. You may be getting some idea of my opinions about monarchy from these texts. But of course, you wouldn't want a teacher influencing your political views. You think whatever you want to. Next part, logos. There you go. Those are the companies that we all love and worship. Maybe 7 and 8 were slightly difficult because they're older. Mark out of 10 for your logos. Let's move on again to the more useful thing, which is use of English part 3. She was part of the country and its institutions. This must be plural because a country has lots of institutions, doesn't it? As in the army, the media, the church, the judicial system. All these things are institutions of a country. And she was painted, filmed, depicted, lauded, and occasionally ridiculed. They made fun of her. Let's hope they were executed for doing that, because that to me sounds completely unacceptable. She went from being a callow princess, as in I think this means like quite a distant, cold person, to a glamorous young queen. And glamorous she was, wasn't she? If you look at the stamps from when she was young, oof, very glamorous young woman. Glamorous, slightly unusual spelling, we need to remove that U. I don't know why, to be honest, it just looks weird with 2 U's. But if that's your criteria for spelling them correctly, it just looks weird, that's a good criteria. You're getting it right. Number 4, who did she meet? Well, really cool people like Nelson Mandela, Robert Mugabe, Nicolae Ceausescu. All close personal friends of the Queen, of course, as well as many celebrities. And 2 million ordinary people. Ooh, the difficult part of the job, right? She had to meet ordinary people. Imagine that. Horrible. And she visited every significant country. And despite the exposure, renown, and fascination, she never engaged in partisan politics. She never had any opinions. Wow, well done. What an achievement. So there we go. Mark out of 6 for Use of English Part 3. Oh, and then we've got the workout, which I haven't included, but you should distribute the points from the workout. If you're doing that, make sure the kids are distributing the points from the workout fairly. And then we've got Use of English Part 4. Take any notice is pay attention to. You can pay any attention to or pay attention to. Can I borrow your crown? To lend, right? Can I borrow? So he wants Liz to lend him. I guess you could also say ask Liz if she could lend him. That is also possible. I probably should have included that. If she could lend him or to lend him. Number 3, how do we use wish? Well, I didn't contact the Queen. I regret is referring to the past, isn't it? So this is like a past tense. So a wish in the past must be past perfect. I wish I had got in touch with the Queen. Or I wish I had gotten in touch with the Queen before she died. If you're American, gotten is American. Nicholas had not expected the funeral. The funeral went better than Nicholas expected. The key thing here is the funeral goes well. The funeral went better than expected. The Queen died a year ago. Typical present perfect with since. It has been a year since the Queen died. And the last one, this is probably the most difficult one. If I had almost no idea, then the phrase with little, this is a C1 phrase. It's an inversion phrase. Little did I know, or little did I realise. This is inversion, which I've gone over in the Use of English Part 4 breakdown video, detailed video. Little did I realise how popular the Queen was. There we go. So 12 marks here. You know how this part works. You get 1 point for each thing on either side of this line that is on the number 1 on my keyboard that I'm really good at using. So total out of 12 for that. And the final round is riddles, and the answers are here. Do I need to explain them? Well, you eat breakfast and lunch. You're eating breakfast and lunch, not dinner. H is in the middle of nowhere. A ton is heavy if you read it forwards, and if you read it backwards, it is not. Yeah. Is an old €100 note better than a new €1? Yes, €100 is better than 1. An egg must be broken. If you eat nothing, you die. And poor people have nothing, and rich people need nothing. Simplistically, obviously. The M is in minute, moment, and not in 1,000 years. A clock has a face and hands, but no arms or legs. And your voice, you can hear but not see. And short becomes shorter when you add 2 letters, ER. So there we go, that's it, we are finished. You have a total out of 90, and hopefully you have a fun lesson where the kids can really get a bit engaged and involved and do something a bit different, but still do their use of English. Hope you enjoyed that. Stay tuned next week for another video like this on the Cambridge exam. Goodbye.